If they've sent something? No, so I'll ask.
Okay.
Okay, Michelle's coming. I haven't heard from Lucy.
Oh, there's music. Cool. Get started. Can I share? Hey, Jaren, while we're getting set up, can you make it where I can share my screen? The host. Cool. Thanks. And Andrea, I'm ready whenever you are if you want to call to order and do that stuff.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so I will call this November 4th special meeting to order, 12:05. I think Sue has talked to all of us, but it's going to go over it again, right? And kind of like show any questions anyone wanted elaborated on. And you have some stuff to like, you can see on screen too, right? Okay.
Yes. All right. So I'll jump in. I'll share one of these as my screen here. There we go. Oh, sorry. And slideshow. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And trying to move all these little things out of the way real quick so I can see. Okay. So thanks for meeting and gathering and listening. I'm gonna go over staffing proposal based on our executive session meeting last board session. Maybe there we go. Okay, so we're evolving and really taking root in model rural community school. Have rich programs, partnerships, and student family supports. As we've grown, our administrative structure has maybe that's a fair way to say it, not kept pace with the complexity of our programs or the depth of communication needed to sustain them. And that was a lot of the conversation we had last month. So the purpose of this proposal to stabilize and strengthen administrative capacity so we can deepen and strengthen our existing programs, deepen and strengthen communication systems, both internal and external, both responsive and strategic, and then ensure sustainability through focus on enrollment, services, and funding. And maintain leadership and staff well-being and effectiveness. So anyway, I'll jump into, and feel free to cut me off at any time, but I'll run through this and then we can make room for discussion. So current staffing structure, superintendent slash secondary principal is just set up as like current duties and then kind of limitations or challenges. So I do district leadership, compliance, principal duties, student management, family communication, program oversight, and then just a list of some of the programs we're working to align and sustain. partnerships are a huge part of making that work. And then grants and it says principal duties up above, but I think really specifically instructional leadership and staff evaluation being a major need in that principal area that often makes it really hard to get into classes regularly with the day-to-day elements. So just overextended. We've talked about this. Daily management limits time for strategic leadership, communication, and program development. And I'll say when I'm operating at my best, I can carry a lot of it and work extra hours to do it. And then when I need a little more time, some of those get dropped more often. Then we have an elementary full-time principal, instructional leadership, teacher supervision, family communication, student supports, and then really focusing on attendance and both tier 1 and our tier 2, 3 intervention supports. And just Sarah's phenomenal, but she's new and learning, and so it takes time to really implement things, and that position often gets pulled for coverage for staffing shortages. So it's a part of the job where you're in multiple roles as well. Then currently we have Joy in the MTSS administrator role. That's a part-time role. Provides principal mentorship, professional learning, supports, creates a lot of those materials, and helps with the implementation. And then really a strategic partner in both development and just the strategizing with me over the years for systems of support for attendance, behavior, and academics. Not everybody sees the front end of that work, but when there's this much on my plate, there's that becomes a really important how do we move forward in each of these areas. And then just the biggest need there, reduced availability in terms of FTE, like her own personal availability, limits the lens for strategic system building. When you're not on campus as often, it's hard to have a full picture. And she and I have talked really openly about that. And then college and career counselor, so Kay is in that position as the Gear Up coordinator, and she serves as admin on duty when I'm away at the secondary level, and supports the mini Gear Up initiatives to grow robust college going culture. And then Kay is moving towards retirement. Oop, I'm gonna let Mary in real quick. Looks like she got dropped. Okay, moving towards retirement. Working on, and then Gear Up is going to end. We're about 2 years away. So there's a need to really be thinking forward on sustainably embedding all of those efforts into our district leadership. Impact of current structure. Just we're kind of piecemealed together with the part-time positions and carrying a lot of pieces. So just reactive and limited communication rather than proactive or strategic, which you can feel. Fragmented coordination. We have a lot of different programs and grants, and they're interconnected, but when there's limited time for facilitating those forward, it lose sight of that interconnectedness and can be in that reactive mode. Limited time for reflection and planning, similar to the 2 things above. And yes, especially certain times of year when the daily needs of students and families and staff, we tend to fall into a really reactive use of the day, and it gets harder to maintain all the other pieces. And then growing compliance load. There's just a lot of reporting that happens, and including like something, I'm good at getting grant money, but that also leads to increased reporting and data collection and all of those things. It's worth it, and it's a piece to manage. And then they're just this year especially increased student, family and staff, needs, that require consistent administrative presence. So, we're seeing that more this year. That ebbs and flows. I'll say that's increasing across all schools right now. So this proposal, and I apologize, I can't see the top of this, but is to add a 1.0 Dean of Students for this year that over time probably makes sense to make an assistant principal, to have a administrator license in that position, but open to conversation about that component of it. And the purpose to provide daily student and family support, allowing existing administrators to focus on deepening and strengthening programs and instructional leadership and strategic communications. So a little bit here, I don't know if I need to read every single part of it, but and this one I kind of broke up to me specifically. When you read principal, that's true for the elementary principal position as well. But there's an element of being able to support her to grow into those roles as well. So the biggest note on this slide is the pieces that come off of the principal position and go to Dean of Students and this idea of a community coordination team. But that this position would focus on student attendance, discipline, and family engagement, family communication, safety and crisis response, wraparound coordination, and just that day-to-day student and family needs. And then in connection with our community coordinator positions, looking at that as like a family resource support and early learning partnerships, that we collectively are building our capacity to support those efforts. And so you'll see that part in collaboration with the dean and principal. So that's the connection of the two of us together. So this would help us to increase strategic and regular communication. Some bullet points there. I'll let you guys read. To deepen and not expand. This isn't create more time for Sue to go make new things, but really to strengthening and making routine what we are doing, and providing more time for SPED and intervention coherence, the preschool promise and early learning alignment, project-based learning and college career to make sure those are continuing to move forward together. Food systems coordination and student enterprise sustainability that's connected to the project-based learning components and connection of the garden to the cafeteria and classrooms. And after school and wraparound resource focus, like becoming a community school to continue that approach of strengthening what we're building and offering for students and families. And then increased capacity creates a leadership structure that better supports daily operations alongside program development and strategic visioning, and then enables me to maintain a proactive role in reporting compliance and partnership building specifically. I think one of my biggest strengths is developing partnerships, but it also is a time that takes time and continued follow-up with those partners. And then this protects instructional time and instructional leadership at both schools. So and then I think this is my last slide. In terms of budget, the cost of this position is, Jaren and I worked on like a fully loaded, most expensive situation. It'd be on a teacher's salary for this first year. And this would incorporate the MTSS admin position. And so we would not spend on that position anymore. There is some food systems funding that's available that this position for this year could oversee that team. to help offset. We can use that grant funding because we have more capacity to move that work forward. And folding those in, we think it adds about 25,000 to this year's staffing budget. This is a little variable on how much to pull from that grant. So this could go maybe as high as 30,000. Jaren, correct my numbers if you think. It really depends on how much we pull from this grant. So it's a little variable there. And then long term, we need to be thinking about when Kay retires and the Gear Up program position, college and career counseling, not the coordinator component of that, but the college and career counseling position, and how we move that work. So it probably makes sense to have me as superintendent and kind of overseeing projects or not projects, programs on campus, on both campuses, and then a principal on the elementary side and an assistant principal on the secondary side, and moving that Gear Up staffing, that's short-term money, about 2 more years, and then we'd need to be seeking funding to sustain if we want to pay it at the same level. So, but folding that Gear Up money into it ends up costing about 15 to 20,000 each year for that position. We haven't created an assistant principal position, so we don't have a exact salary, but somewhere in the range of probably 150. So, let me make sure that's my last slide. It is. So I'll stop talking there and open it for discussion. And really my ask is, if this is a model that y'all are in support of, what feedback you have, and if it's something that is a yes, to ask to like use this as a transition year to post the Dean of Students position, and then start moving us into a more sustained administrative staffing model in the coming years. So I'll stop there. And I can either leave my screen shared or not. Just tell me what you prefer.
And anyone can feel free to speak up with questions. I don't have any at the moment.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing a little bit. Okay.
You know, what my initial thoughts are that the times have changed and that our model is not responding to the needs of our staff and our students and our administrators. I just think that, you know, I credit you, Sue, for acknowledging or allowing us to help you acknowledge that there's a problem and that we have to like get creative. And I think this is very creative. I'd love to see more concrete money available. The idea that in 2 years, you know, we have to find something, you know, or whatever, that doesn't feel like the way you're supposed to steward a budget. But I also think that, you know, one thing you said was that family needs ebb and flow, and this year they're higher. Well, I don't think there's any indicators that they're going to get lower. I just don't think that doesn't seem like that's what the world is doing these days. So I think we have to go to something like this, and I think it's going to get clearer. Hopefully, it'll get clearer where the money does come from, or what are our ideas about where the money can come from. One thing we've been talking about doing is going charter. That's going to take time. That's going to take our eye off the ball. Potentially, it can bring in more money. You know, I mean, there's a lot of balls to juggle, but we definitely have to acknowledge and admit that what we got going isn't really the best model, and that it's time to change.
I
Yeah,
agree
you-
with all that,
yeah,
Michelle. Like, oh, what? Oh, okay. But I agree that like, because when Sue and I talked, I was like, okay, so it's sort of kind of like a wash, but like what you were saying, Michelle, as far as like concrete money, so we're not guessing at like how long can we afford this? How long can this last? Um, if we know we can solidify some of that a little better, I'm comfortable with it because I think that I wasn't for it when like she first started her conversation because I was like foreseeing these problems and how can we sustain it and how can that actually work? But I think it's necessary. Like I think it will do good things and make the ship run a little smoother. Um, I just want to know that yeah, we can financially sustain it.
I also agree with everything that's being said. Um, I know that over the last couple of years, even when we've been doing reviews and things like that, for you, Sue, like one of the main things has always been like we're stretched too thin and you got to figure it out. So now you've come to a solution or a potential solution to figure it out. So in that respect, I think this is a great option. Um, I'm also concerned about funding, mostly because there also is, cuts to funding that have been telegraphed pretty heavily. Um, and so, and also this isn't a model that we've been using for a while. So I didn't know if there was like other small districts that are like comparable to ours, like how they've structured their admin and how like what their budget looks like for those positions, like how they're paying for it with the funding as it currently is. Just like curious if we have something to compare it to.
it's a good question. See if I can do this off the top of my head. Crow and Marcola, who are slightly bigger than us, but in the 1A category, and in the county, some quite a lot of comparable connections there, have both shifted to having, I'm trying to think. Well, Crow's a little different this year because last year they added a assistant principal at the elementary level where Heidi was principal, and then they had a change in staffing. So she's up at the secondary, but it's interim for 1 year, and then they are gonna add the plan that I understand so far is to hire that position. I don't want to speak for another district. That can always change. But and then the two small, so Mackenzie and Triangle Lake uh both operate with two full-time, so essentially they have like a K-12 principal and then superintendent running things in at least, well, I think it's true for both. There's more counseling and mental health supports, and I would say less concentration of need, based on our conversations. I can't compare apples to apples. We don't sit around comparing that deeply, but in some of the conversations we've had, we've talked about that. But like, for example, Peace Health, we modeled our partnership with Peace Health off of Mackenzie's. They've had a full-time counselor in that position, or mental health therapist since for multiple years, and Peace Health hasn't been able to hire that for us. So that's sitting on our plate, so those are some of the things that are pulling us from day to day. And it's not for a lack of uh, creating partnerships and trying to support them to hire people. There are barriers to getting that, and it's a cost savings approach. But I'm not convinced we would be able to hire one directly, and it would be significantly more expensive and be harder to bill for us. So there's a reason we do it as a partnership, trying to reduce those costs, and it moves the recruitment of those positions into another agency outside of my control. So, but that's some of the I think those are all the 4-day school weeks in our county for comparison. And I should say the Dean of Students idea. So there is a Dean of Students in Crow. So that was where I was meeting with people at the ESD to talk through different ideas. And that's where where this idea stemmed from, was that conversation to say, have you considered a Dean of Students? So
Mary pointed out that you mentioned, I guess it was really at the last board meeting, that we're going to see cuts. So how does that factor in with this model?
yeah, well, we're waiting for Jaren, you'll have to correct me on the date. I think it's like November either 16th or 19th or something. Budget forecast to know, or economic forecast to really know what it's going to look like moving forward. So we're a couple weeks out from there. I think we've always uh fiscally, we are not at the same spot as other districts that are in reduction of force and those conversations. We just have to be smart about spending. And so it's this awkward spot to say, hey, we have to be really careful here. And at the same time, like, hey, in order to hold the capacity of what we do, to ask to spend a little more money. I will say another coastal district was adding a position this week, like just that I heard about. And so there are spaces where, for capacity reasons, people are creating positions to help oversee. And especially, you know, like, it's just it's intention, right? Like there um budgets, if state budgets are going to get cut across the board, it's not just education, it's all the social services that support education, which means our needs are going to continue to go up for families and students in the day-to-day, which requires more capacity from the people leading that work. And at some point you're stretched so thin that what I don't want is it to fall apart in our district, where, because we're stretched so thin during those changes. And I think it asks us, it is an increase in cost, but I think it's an increase in cost that the cost benefit ratio will pay off in a way that opens capacity to seek additional funding. So, and I wish I could say, hey, 2 years from now, that's the grant that we're going to go for, and it's going to be available, and that's the one, and to have concrete, but unfortunately it doesn't, like, that type of grant programming doesn't, you can't forecast that far forward, especially in a shifting federal environment, because some of those large, Gear Up's a federally funded program, that we, it's been it's fully funded our current one. We have no clue what the future of that program is going to look like.
So the reality is that over years, the reason why Mapleton still exists when districts were folding was because we really made these tough choices and we were very fiscally conservative. I mean, over decades. And that's why we're sitting pretty. But I want to hear from you that, like, are you going to chop something in order to make this happen? Or are we just going to eat into our comfortable nugget that we've realized we want to protect?
Yeah, I mean, if we need to chop something, we can, and I'll have those conversations. Jaren does a really good job of worst case scenario budgeting. So when even this conversation of, 20 to 30,000 into there, that's still in a worst case environment. And last year, Jaren, I'll let you say this to make sure I'm not making up words or mincing words or anything, but ended up almost even, or right at even in the spending in. So we didn't dip in, even though we had these conversations as a board to say, hey, when we increase staffing costs, there's a chance we dip in by this much. The reality is we did all that and didn't dip in. We kept even, and even prior years grew that ending fund balance. And so that's my goal, is to not dip in, but also to move in ways that we can do the work well, right? And so and that's where I do go after every amount of funding out there, to make sure that we're taking advantage of all programs that align to what we're doing. I'm not going and finding like, oh, we could get a gazillion dollars if we do this thing over here that's not related to what we do already. Like, that's not how I function, but anything that comes across our desk that is aligned to the initiatives we're working on, I put in for it, or find a way to capacity for that. Like, Courtney's carrying a lot of that side of things right now, and it's been awesome. And we have to keep our eyes open and go after those funds. That's what allows us to stay cost neutral. So, Jaren, anything you want to add on that?
I mean, as part of this idea, we are in a sense cutting something. We're not renewing. We're not going to rehire for one of our gardening people that just left, and putting this position over that also, to try and get some things moving with it that we didn't feel like we're moving.
That's not much money, is it?
It's not insignificant. That's
Okay. All right.
yeah. I mean, a halftime position. And what we're talking on the, like, if we fold in the administrative position, it's not insignificant.
When do those
Part of it
eliminate?
is also releasing Joy. So yes, I mean, yeah.
When do those when did those positions end? Like Joy and Kay?
So
And not
Joyce,
like for Kay, I know she was thinking about retirement, but because
Yeah.
we're making the switch, now the decision's different. When would you be eliminating those positions?
yeah, so I've had the conversation with Joy to do, like, if we approve and go this direction, that it would be, kind of at the same time as posting and hiring. So in whatever time frame that moved in. And then
Kind of soon, and like, hey, would she finish out the year? Or...
yeah, for sure this year. And then that's the conversation for next year and beyond, is starting to transition that retirement. And I've had, like, we've started that discussion, but I don't have concrete on that yet. So, but I will say she's open to helping transition to a more sustainable plan. Like, that I can say 100%. So, and then the food systems one already took place.
Does anyone have any other questions or need other clarification?
I think I'd like to hear a little more from Jaren. Do you have any? I mean, do you have more that you could make us feel more comfortable about this? Because I trust you, Jaren. I feel like you've got the global perspective of our district, and you know all the. So do you, Sue. But
Yeah, it's good to hear it twice.
yeah, I mean, is there something you want to add, Jaren, to allay any the fears that we seem to all probably have?
Well, we have a meeting with ODE tomorrow. I haven't, the business managers, where they're sharing. They had to submit by today their plans to the state for what their potential cuts are and stuff. They're sharing that out tomorrow to us so we can see potential stuff. So that'll give me an idea if we need to worry at all about that. I mean, and we'll see where the economic forecasts come in sometime down the line. And yeah, one of the hard things is if grant funding is drying up with all of this, but that's, like you mentioned, do we need to cut things as we're going along? And as some of these grants come due, yeah, people related to them might be going away if there's not additional funding found. And hopefully we've gotten things in place. I mean, there's more Sue's wheelhouse for making sure things are in place that can continue whatever those things we're doing, hopefully rolling them into things. But financially, it's with cutting a couple of the other positions, and we'll see, yeah, if we need to start making some hard decisions, if we have anyone that leaves, and we can talk about, yeah, do we not replace that position for our regular staff? But it really depends on where the economy goes as to whether or not I'm worried. Right now, like Sue said, I feel like we're in a pretty good position still with all the grants that we have right now, and they've really helped out being able to maintain a pretty level position last year financially. And yeah, I think this is feasible at least this year, and then we'll know more as we move along.
I was trying to find a slide to show you, but I can't find it fast enough. But the state thing they were asked to submit is like 5%. Every agency in the state was asked to submit 5% budget cuts, and where those would come. And education submitted them in 4 buckets, and the expectation is they would be cut in that order to some degree. That's a little bit of a simplification, but so one of those buckets we don't have a lot of programs inside of, so cuts there wouldn't impact us directly. One of them is like state level cuts where we'd have less support from state people, but it's not affecting us in our funding stream. And then one of them's connected to the corporate activity tax, which has stayed strong so far, and they're like that's a separate type of economic forecast than the rest of the pieces. And then the last one that they put in is general fund that would impact districts, and that they're talking about in 0.05% increments. And so that would be the most direct impact to our bottom line. And they're positioning that at the bottom of all these cuts and talking about it in 0.05% increments. It wouldn't be just like 5% cuts to every district across the board. If they got to that point, it would be catastrophic, like economic collapse. We'd be talking about everybody sitting at the table having big cuts conversations. We're hopeful that that's not where we're going to be. So, and Jaren, you're better at connecting the 0.05% to number of dollars. But yeah, I don't know that we're like, when we hear 5% budget cuts, that's one number. That's what, like 150,000. And so we're looking at maybe a tenth of that. But likely, and the state is hoping towards not that. So that I can explain a little bit, but and all of that being contingent on the economic forecast that's coming out this month. So we'll know more then.
throwing my comments here. I don't know that I have really good, well formatted thoughts. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw some out anyway. I am like always nervous about sustaining, even our current staffing level. Like we don't know what's coming. Like, and we do have an indication that it's not a rosy picture. But we never know. We're always contingent. We're always operating with, doing our best to project and be careful, but also knowing that we're going to have to adjust to what comes. So I think it's great to have this discussion. I'm hearing and feeling pretty comfortable with what I'm hearing, that like, that for now, this seems like not not an exorbitant increase, but I agree that this is longer term stuff, but I'm not sure that I don't feel like saying, no, this is not a good idea. Now, based on what we know, is like, I don't know if that makes sense, because there's going to be so much new information and we're going to have to adapt anyway. So this would be something we would also be having in our, like what we have to adapt to and consider. So like I said, I'm sorry, my thoughts aren't like concise, but so I guess what that comes down to for me is like, I feel like I'm comfortable hearing from Darren and Sue that like at the moment with what we have in place now, this is manageable. So that makes me feel comfortable enough to go ahead, and also acknowledging that like this may be a position we cut in a year if we get terrible financial news. So because and partly, I really do see the need for a position, it's like an increase in capacity in the areas that Sue's identified within the school, and with our school population and what we try and offer the students, which I really think is awesome and excellent and I'm proud of, which is a lot of one-on-one and sort of targeted help in areas that different students need help, and that is all over the place. That's like some students need extra help with like their awesome college applications. Some students need extra help identifying like what the next step is for them career-wise. It's not college, all this stuff. So there's that end of things. And then there's also support for students who come to us and who are just like really needing to figure their academic and everything else, life out. And it takes a huge amount of time and energy. I think I think it's so valuable to be able to do that as much as possible to meet those needs. But it doesn't come without a lot of personnel time. So I think right now, like those are the needs, and those are also the needs that like, when you have a kid, like they're immediate daily, somebody needs to meet those needs in the building. And so they're the ones that end up getting met, or like getting time spent on them, and other ones. Other really important things, there's just that kind of keeps getting pushed. So I just see the issue. I think this is a good attempt at a solution. I'm supportive of trying it and going with this. And so just wanted to put that out there. I like the needs. I think the solution is an attempt to meet them. I'm excited about like taking proactive action to try and do that. Nervous about finances, going to be nervous about it anyway. So
there is such an irony to all of this in that, we do what's best for kids. That's our mission. We do what's best for kids. Then we have to weigh the realities of funding and monies against sustaining good emotional and mental health for our staff. That should never happen in the world that I want to live in. That would never occur, but it is the world we live in. And so we're either going to burn out Sue and other good people that are in our employ, or we're going to look at the cliff of money. And like I said, we've been good with money, and I trust that this is not going to break the bank. I don't really believe that it will. I don't think it's really that much money. And our comfort level with our ending fund balance has been, it's like, we like that. We like that. Well, we might not get to have exactly what we like, because we got to respond to the times. So, kudos to you, Sue and Jaron, for recognizing the problem and looking for solutions and moving us forward, because we just can't stay static. It's clearly unhealthy and not meeting the needs of the kids with who we are focused on, right?
And I just want to say, like, I mean, you said burnout for me. I think when we can't be responsive and supportive to every single staff member because we're getting drawn towards those other pieces, it's burnout for the whole system, not like, yes, I'm a component of that, and it's a lot on the plate, and there are times where you just, I need a little rest sometimes, and that's true for every single adult in the system because we're doing so much for kids and families, and so this is a chance to be more better positioned to support each adult in the system.
That's what I was gonna say, is like the trickle down effect, I think, from, this, I think with staff and stuff, seems like it they would benefit from this, because, then they can get more support. And so, and I think that it's like sometimes about quality over quantity versus, having too many things going on and having them done kind of halfway. And so I think even if it does mean cutting some stuff, which is unfortunate, I don't know, it's about give and take. So I think definitely for the kids' sake and for staff, because that's the next crisis, right? Is like, now we don't have any staff because they all are burnt out and feel very, unheard and unsupported. So.
Okay, anyone else? Mary, any last minute stuff? I think she said no, right? Okay, so I guess what we need to do, right, is entertain a motion to approve for this position, right, Michelle? And then
Just one this is assumed in that ask, but I think we had this as a discussion item.
okay.
Is a motion, do we have to say make it an action item? This is just a
Oh
process
no,
question.
you're right. I don't know. Do we have to make it an action item? Michelle or Mizu, do you know that?
Or
Well,
does
we don't
make
have to make it an action item here at this meeting. We will have to make it an action item at some point. We will have to approve it. It's additional position and funds. But I
So
don't know,
she-
is that what we were, I didn't know that that's why we were gathered. I thought we were here to talk about it, think about it, ruminate on it, and then we would do it? Or is there a
Nope.
reason why we should make it an action item here?
We don't have to make it here if we're not in a rush to do anything. If we're not in a rush to post anything.
How do you feel about that, Sue? Do you want us to, would you prefer that we weighed in and voted today? I mean, I'm actually prepared to. I don't know what else we're going to find, although Jaron did say there's a meeting coming next week and we'll have more information, and maybe that will make us feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I am open to either. I think, I mean, I'm an administrator. If we're gonna do it, I want to get started. I'm not gonna pull punches about that, but I also understand the need for public process and consideration and budget and all that, and I'm open to both directions. So, I do think there's an like if we were to move and post now, there's opportunity to um either start somebody the beginning of December if they were available, or immediately coming back from winter break if they needed to put in notice somewhere. And so it's not a terrible trend, like time of year to start somebody there. And then just any amount that we wait beyond that time frame gets pushed back further, and we'll make it either way. So
Are we, if we're voting today though, are we voting just for like a position, or is it for a dean, or is it for a principal or a vice principal?
For this year, my proposal is only a dean position. I don't think we should talk about it being an administrator position until we know answers to moving like budget cycles, those things, to look at cost beyond this year. But this is really for this year, being at the dean level.
I'm comfortable with making the motion. I mean, I've talked to you, Sue. I've had conversations with other board members. I see what's going on, and it is, to me, responding to a need that we need to act on. So if everybody's cool, I would move that we adopt this proposal for a dean of students.
Anyone want to
We
second
have
that?
then are we gonna, then it's discussion for like a little bit more, right, before we vote?
Mary, we couldn't hear you very well.
Yeah.
Do you want to, I don't know if your audio can get any better. If you can't, do you want to put that in the chat?
It might help if everybody else mutes for a second. I don't know if it'll make a difference or not, but sometimes it does.
Right.
Gotcha. So this would be on the certified salary. So the salary step schedule would be a year one teacher in Mapleton, and then dependent on how much education the candidate brought with them would land them horizontally across that scale. But it'd be a year one certified staff position, where the max of that plus all the benefits and insurance together, Jared and I took the highest price of 130. There's a chance it's less than that, dependent on less education and less need for insurance.
Right. I am prepared to second.
Okay, so all those in favor, Michelle,
Yes.
Mizu,
Yes.
Abby,
Yes.
Mary.
Mary put an I in the chat. Annie, did you see it? I really wasn't joking. She really did it.
Oh, she really, I thought you were yelling her too. Yeah.
I realized you laughed. I was like, she thinks I just told her to do that.
I'm waving. Okay, and then
To be clear,
Mary.
she had already done it.
Yep. I was like, well, there's a good way to get your vote, right? It has been me as well. Okay, so, I mean, I'm excited to see it do good things if we're posting and filled as well, so.
Cool. Well,
Anyone else have anything else, or Sue?
I have just a thank you for, it is a fiscal risk. I think it's the right decision, and it's a fiscal risk. So I appreciate y'all for understanding and taking that. And we'll get the thing posted by tomorrow morning at the latest, and keep you apprised of where things go from there.
I'm gonna guess you're gonna have fewer sick days, Sue.
Yeah, God, I hope so. So, yeah, no, it's a nice thing when you can breathe a
No
little
weight off
bit.
your shoulders.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thanks everyone for turning this
All
around
right.
fast.
thanks everyone.
Later.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.